Okay. New. Look, once again, thanks for the historical insight. So now I'm going to ask Russ Hardie to come up and lead a bit of some thoughts about where we've been this year and maybe where people can hear as well. Once we can get the lighting figured out. Is okay? Yeah, okay. Just down a little bit. I think it's just a little bit.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jess. My intention is to stray a little off topic. What I was asked to do was to reflect on the last 12 months and some of the implications for the next 12 months. What I'd really like to do is briefly talk about the last 12 months, if you like the last couple of years. But what I'd really like to do is place the last couple of years in context for why these things are happening. And if you like, project that context into the future and what the implications are for us as engaged in this industry. What the implications of that might be, and what as a society we might choose to do about that. We can then talk about how that might manifest and what we do in the next 12 months as part of a wrap-up, Mark, after the end. So, if you don't mind a little indulgence, a little bit about the last 12 months, the last couple of years. Then place that within the context of what's happening in the past and then into the future, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion through Mark about what that might mean for the next 12 months. So, the last 12 months, and not just the last 12 months, the last few years, one of the big things that we've seen, particularly in Victoria, was that period of drought that led up to about 2010. A couple of years of intense rainfall, big flood events. And so we had a whole lot of environmental flow studies during the droughts, and at the end of the droughts we had a whole lot of flood recovery stuff happening during the floods and just after the floods. And now we're just about to move into something else. In fact, the last couple of years or so has been moving into that drought sequence again through much of Victoria. So we've got this variability that's happening in the last couple of years. Another thing that's happened in the last couple of years, we've had a coalition government come into federal government, and right across the eastern seaboard of Australia we've seen, again, coalition or conservative governments in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, right across the eastern seaboard. Interestingly, with both at the Commonwealth level and just recently with the Victorian elections, we've seen, and it's likely to be, at the Senate level, independents having the balance of power, and this change. It's not the opposition having the balance of power in the Senate, but the independents having that, the crossbenchers having that balance of power, both at the national and the state levels. In Victoria, we've also just had some policy updates. We had the floodplain management strategy, and we've had some other policy updates over the last 12 months or so. But I guess importantly, when I sit back and think about the last 12 months, from my perspective, I think it's been one of the toughest 12 months that I've seen in the consulting industry. And that toughness in the consulting industry is a reflection of two major structural changes, or two things that have happened across Australia. And that is a decline in our mining income, in the mining boom, which has seen a major shift in resources and a reduction in income. And the other one is the shift to the coalition, or if you like, more conservative governments that have resulted in a reduction in funding and investment in rivers. And those two things, from my perspective, have seen a major reduction in the income to our business, but I think most of you, in terms of Melbourne Water and industry and government, have also seen that reflected in your budgets. It's a much tougher time. So that's led to much declining budgets. We've seen tougher employment conditions, and we've seen a much tougher consulting environment. As I mentioned, probably one of the toughest consulting environments that I've seen. In fact, the only other time that I've seen something similar was in the time that John Howard was just coming into government, I think, and was looking to sell Telstra in order to fund the National Land Care Program. And it was around that time that there was an impasse in the selling of Telstra. There was no funding for the National Land Care Program, or no funding for major programs and investments in rivers until Telstra was sold, and that coincided with the decline in the mining industry. that was at the start of the Howard era, 15, 20 years ago. So if you like, there's a bunch of things that have been happening over the last 12 months or last couple of years, but what I want to do is place that in a context of what I see in some big pictures. And I want to place that context in terms of societal changes, environmental changes, and economic changes. I also then want to just think about some of the implications of that and what's the role of the RBMS. So when I think about what's happening in terms of society, we're seeing Victoria is an increase in population. Our population is increasing. But particularly our population is increasing in Melbourne. And we're seeing an increased urbanisation of our society. We're seeing a decrease in our rural populations. Some of our larger regional centres are getting bigger, but Melbourne is booming. Melbourne is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're seeing an increased urbanisation of our society. So increased population and increased urbanisation of our society. And with the increased urbanisation of our society, there's potential for an increased disconnection between the population and the rural productivity that generates a lot of the income for Victoria. So somewhere where disconnect could arise. But with that urban population is an increase we have a more informed society and most likely, and a more educated society. So perhaps more disconnected from the rural environment, but more informed and more educated. The other thing that we're seeing with an increased urbanised society is a change in our rural populations. We're seeing more corporate farms and more lifestyle farms. The family farm is going out of business. We're seeing enlargement of our farms, consolidation of our farms, and if it is a family holding, they're a corporate entity now. So corporatisation of agriculture, but if it's not corporatisation of agriculture, it's shifting the other way into lifestyle agriculture. And that has implications for our programs as well. The other thing about society and the things that are changing in society, Sandra, you mentioned it. I used to have one of those bricks. In fact, it used to sit beside the car and you'd pick up the handle.
On the bag phone.
Yeah, the bag phone. So I had one of those bag phones and one of those bricks. But we are becoming a more informed and connected society. And as a result of, if you like, the availability of, if you like, our modern technology, I suspect we're becoming less patient and we're looking for greater immediacy. And perhaps we're starting to see that impatience and immediacy in our politics. Changes of government. The other thing that we're seeing is a change in our environment. So societal changes, we're seeing changes in the environment. And the big one that we're all seeing is climate change. More droughts, more floods. More extended droughts, bigger floods. So more variability. We're seeing increase in temperature, hotter, drier conditions, possibly more wildfires as a result of that. And we're seeing increased sea level. So, and I think I read in the paper this morning, 2014 is on heading for one of the warmest periods or warmest years on record. So we're seeing both increased variability and we're also seeing more extremes, hotter conditions and possibly more wildfires and increased sea level. So that has implications for us as well. Final one I thought I'd just also mention, we've got societal changes, we've got environmental changes, but the other thing that's impacting on us is economic changes. We're going to have economy, the Australian economy, the Victorian economy that booms and busts and things will go, we'll have good years and we'll have bad years. But the thing that we're seeing in Victoria at the moment particularly is a reflection of what happened with the mining industry. The mining boom sent the dollar upwards, and the upward pressure on the dollar has really put big pressure on our manufacturing industry in Victoria. Now that has basically seen near the end of our manufacturing in Victoria. Now that has implications for us because one of the questions for Victoria is what's our next income source? If we're not manufacturing and exporting, what is Victoria's shtick? What does it do? Where does it get its income? So there's things that we need to think about there. But the other thing in terms of our economy is the increased mobility of capital. And so people and companies will be willing to invest where they get the best return. And the best return is going to be stability and high productivity. And you need both. A stable environment, a stable economy, a stable politics, and an efficient and effective production. So we've got these environmental changes, societal changes, and changes in the economy. So that led me to think about, well, what are the implications for us in our management of our streams and our catchments? And I think there's two major implications there. We need to get better at what we do, and we need to get better at demonstrating what we do. In terms of getting better at what we do, in terms of the economy, in terms of things being tough, we need to get more efficient and effective in the delivery of our programs. Whether it's delivering environmental water, we need to be more effective in delivery of environmental water. How can we optimise the resources that we've got available? If we've got limited funding for our stream management programs, what's the best way to get those dollars on the ground? So how can we most effectively get that stuff on the ground? So it's being effective and efficient in our delivery programs. When you think about climate and this issue of variability, we need to start thinking about creating robust systems. We need to create robust river systems. We need to create robust biological systems, systems that can cope with those extremes. But it's not just robust environment, but we also need to think about creating robust institutions. We need about creating a robust industry that can cope with the good and the bad, the shift and the flow. The other one is that we need to be thinking about is those societal impacts and those societal implications. And I think in that respect, it's about the communications. We need to get a whole lot better with our communications, and particularly about demonstrating how we're going as an industry. It's not just going to be good enough to say that we do a good job. What we need to be able to do is demonstrate that we do a good job. We've seen governments tossed out because they haven't been able to sell their message. We need to be able to sell our message, and we need to be able to demonstrate what we're doing and what we're achieving. I guess that leads me to my last point, that's around what's the role of the RBMS and what can we do about all this stuff. And I see two main things that we can be doing both as a society, Victorians, but also as a river basin management society. And the two big things that I put up there for the future for us are education and engagement. If we think about ourselves as an industry, education is going to be the thing that we need to get on top of. It's about educating ourselves about our own capacity, our personal education, and getting to understand and know more about ourselves and our own limitations and strengths. It's about understanding your community, finding out what is your community wants for their rivers, finding out what your industry can do, and it's also finding out and educating yourself about your rivers, the processes, the geomorphology, the biology, getting up to speed with the science, so you can have an informed conversation with your community. So education, learning more about yourself, your own limitations and strengths. It's about educating yourself about your society, your community, and also education around your river and processes. I don't know what the future holds. We can predict and look at things based on environmental change, societal changes and economic changes. But what I do know is that whatever that future holds, we will be better prepared if we're well informed and we're up to speed with our education. And I guess the final one amongst that in terms of a role of the society and something we all need to be thinking about is our engagement, our communications. We're not going to be able to achieve improvements, we're not going to be able to make the next steps without good engagement. And that's good engagement both within the industry, but also engagement beyond the industry. It's engagement of societies like this with other organisations, with lands departments, or with agricultural society, the VFF, National Farmers Federation, forestry industry. It's about that cross-pollination of ideas. What is it that we want for Victoria? And those discussions about what we want for Victoria are discussions that we as a society need to have with other groups. So, when I think about the last couple of years and some of the big picture changes, we've got societal changes, we've got population changes, and we've both got demographic changes about urban and rural society. We've got environmental changes with increased variability, and we've got economic changes with increased mobility of capital. And they create some implications for us as an industry. What we need to be doing is we need to be doing what we do better, and we need to be demonstrating that in order to sell our message. And the way to do that, and the role of a society like us, like being part of this, is through engagement and communications. And with those things,